What's going on, bottom line viewers and NFL gamblers? It's Mitch here, back with another NFL Best Bets video, this time for week number 3 of the 2021 NFL season, giving you my 5 favorite bets versus the spread, as well as the teaser of the week. Last week, we went 500, not our greatest, 3-3 overall, but we did win the teaser. So that put us at 4-3 for the week, and our grand total, 7-5 versus the spread, 2-0 with the teaser, meaning we are 9-5 on the season here on the Bottom Line View, betting against the NFL. Before I give you those picks for week number 3, make sure you do spike that like button, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for weekly NFL Best Bets here on the Bottom Line View. Winning season has started off hot with my bookie, but they're continuing to crank up the heat with the Survivor pool. You guys know how Survivor pools work, right? You've probably been in one before. You just pick the team that you think's gonna win this week. Guaranteed. That is how you win at my bookie. Right now, they're running a Survivor pool, $50,000. Whether you've never signed up for my bookie before or you are already a member, you will be entered into the Survivor pool. $50,000 is the grand prize. Use the code BLV100 right now to double your first deposit and get a free entry into this $50,000 Survivor pool. This week, you could choose from a bunch of different games. You could go with the Steelers historically dominating the Bengals. You could maybe go with Lamar Jackson over the Detroit Lions, or my personal pick, the Denver Broncos over the New York Jets and rookie Zach Wilson. Head over to my bookie right now, double your first deposit, get an entry into the Survivor pool, big time grand prize of $50,000. Use that code BLV100. That is Bottom Line View 100. BLV100 to double your first deposit. Bet anything, anywhere, anytime at my bookie. And let's continue this winning season here on the Bottom Line View with my best bets. My first best bet of week number 3, we are continuing to fade the worst team in the NFL. That is the Jacksonville Jags. They are taking on the Arizona Cardinals, a Cardinals team with a quarterback that is playing at an MVP level. I'm speaking and talking about Kyler Murray, who I think is going to continue to roll with Rondale Moore, the spark to this offense that he has given them down the field, underneath. He's a playmaker. Kyler is a playmaker, a one-man show of an offense right now. MVP level quarterback play. They are not going to be slowed by this Jacksonville defense that I would argue has been the worst defense in football through the first 2 weeks. And their offense isn't much better. Trevor Lawrence has been consistently inaccurate, consistently confused from opposing defensive coordinators. I don't expect that to stop versus a well-schooled Cardinals defense that can get after you up front. Chandler Jones is a monster. J.J. Watt is there. They've got pass rushers on their side in Arizona, and this offensive line for Jacksonville hasn't been able to open up lanes in the run game, hasn't been able to consistently protect Trevor Lawrence. They don't have phenomenal receivers to where you're really concerned about the Cardinals back end, and I understand not trusting a Cliff Kingsbury led team here. But at the same time, do you trust Urban Meyer? The guy's a joke. He's awful. He's the worst coach in football right now. He should leave to the NCAA college football tomorrow. That's how bad he's been. Collectively, this staff is bad. And I expect the Cardinals to put up 30-plus points in this game. So are the Jags going to score 23? I don't expect them to. I'm taking Arizona to win this game and to cover, and continuing to fade Jacksonville. My second best bet of the week is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers minus a point versus the Los Angeles Rams on the road in LA. This is the game of the week, a potential preview of the NFC Championship game. We are again riding with Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Bucs. Not a bad idea in my personal, humble opinion. Tampa Bay is the best team in football, and I still don't think they're being respected as such, as LA actually opened this week as the favorite over Tampa Bay. Don't get stuck with the home field. LA is not a great home field advantage, and thus far this season, home field has been pretty much irrelevant towards our bets. I don't expect a Tom Brady-led Tampa Bay team that went on the road to win all their games through the Super Bowl to be rattled at all in a big spot in this game. Yes, Antonio Brown may not play. He may play actually, though. And JPP is a little bit banged up. But the Tampa Bay Bucks, I expect them to really light up an LA defense that to me is overrated. They've played Andy Dalton and the Bears offense, dreadful. But they move the ball up and down the field, both on the ground and through the air. And the Colts, who quietly should have beat the Rams last week. I think the Rams are being overrated in this spot. And as much as I like Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay, and for McVay's ability to potentially scheme up to move the ball versus Tampa's defense, I don't trust that they can beat the Bucks, the best team in the league, the best quarterback in the league, and personally my MVP right now, Tom Brady. Too many weapons for the Bucks, and I think they typically rise to the occasion versus the best teams in these spots. I think Tampa Bay is just going to win this game and showcase their dominance in this spot. So I'm going to take Tampa Bay over the Rams, only minus a point, so you basically just have to have them win the game, and I expect that to happen in LA. My third best bet of week number 3 is the Seattle Seahawks -2 at the Minnesota Vikings. Now the Vikings are 0-2, and it's hard to imagine that they're going to drop a game at home to become 0-3. It is definitely hard to imagine that, but I believe it's going to happen. And I'm so confident to say that I actually took Seattle -2.5 a week before this game. So I was accurate on the Tampa Bay line. I was accurate on the Carolina line. I was a little bit inaccurate on this line because I felt like Seattle was going to beat the Titans. They were up big versus the Titans and end up blowing that game. And the Cardinals luckily beat the Vikings, which is where you've seen the line movement for this game. I think Seattle is going to get back on track here. After a loss, Russell Wilson is 34-9. Russell Wilson and the Seahawks will refocus. And they've typically owned the Vikings in recent memory. So much to say that I don't know if Russell Wilson has ever lost to the Vikings. You might want to fact check that, but I believe that's accurate. He has pretty much owned them in these close games. And I expect this game to be close, but I expect Seattle to come out the winner. The key advantage for me is on both sides of the ball when it comes to throwing the football for the Seahawks and defending the run for Seattle. So first of all, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett will not be guarded in this game effectively. The Vikings cannot guard those two receivers. They've had a lot of issues with wide receivers in their first 2 weeks. They could not cover the Cardinals, especially down the field. They just faced Kyler Murray, who is moving and ditzy dangling his way around the pocket. Russell Wilson does very similar things. In fact, Kyler Murray is kind of like young Russell Wilson in that way, and I expect Russell Wilson to see those same things and execute in a similar fashion, throwing the ball down the field for big plays, escaping the rush in a similar fashion. Now, it might help the Vikings that they played a similar quarterback, but Russell Wilson has played very well to start the year, and I expect him to continue that trend, especially with the mismatches he has on the outside, which is going to open up the run game for the Seahawks because the Vikings are going to be so worried about those receivers on the outside. On the flip side, Seattle typically plays a lot of people in the box. They play 8 men in the box. They have Jamal Adams in the box as an extra linebacker, and they're tough to run on because of that. Now, don't look too much into Derrick Henry because Dalvin Cook has actually been not at practice this week. He's missed 2 consecutive practices, and I'm not sure he's going to be 100%. The Vikings' run game was very good in the first half last week, but not as good in the second half versus the Cardinals. I think some of that has to do with Dalvin Cook wearing down. I think Seattle will be able to slow down the Vikings enough, a team that loves to be run heavy, and that's going to put them in a lot of third and longs. I expect Seattle, just by this game flow and by the two teams, the way that they match up, to me favors Seattle. So I'll take Seattle -2 or -1.5, whatever the line is. Give me Seattle in this game to win it. My fourth best bet in week 3 is the Chargers +7 or 6.5. I like 7 more, personally, obviously, over the Kansas City Chiefs in this AFC West divisional matchup. The Chargers have played the Chiefs in very close games throughout most of Patrick Mahomes' career, with or without Justin Herbert, with or without Phillip Rivers, these games have been close between the Chargers and the Chiefs, including Justin Herbert's first ever game in the NFL where they took the Chiefs to overtime. Now, this is a completely different coaching staff, but in that, I actually think it favors the Chargers even more. Because when you look at Brandon Staley and his approach to football defensively, it actually helps defend the Chiefs. Brandon Staley does not like placing his linebackers, safeties, and more players in the box, which therefore, like I just brought up with Seattle, usually helps defend the run. When you take less players in the box and put them in the secondary, it helps you defend the deep pass. That's exactly what you need to do fundamentally to beat the Chiefs. You need to force them to run the ball. You need to slow the game down. And you need to speed the clock up, which means less points will likely be scored by the Chiefs in this game, which means that the 7 points are very helpful here. But the Chargers defense, I think, is underrated. They didn't really give up many points to the Cowboys. They forced a couple turnovers. And overall, I just look at the way that Brandon Staley's defensive scheme is lined up and the way that Derwin James can potentially take away Travis Kelce. And I say that the Chargers are one of the better defensive matchups to actually slow down Mahomes in this game. And the Chiefs don't really trust their running backs to carry the ball, especially Clyde Edwards-Helaire at this point. So I like the Chargers defense to give the Chiefs offense a little bit of a tough time. On the flip side, the Chiefs defense has been horrendous through the first 2 games. They've barely forced any punts, and if not for 2 Tyrann Mathieu interceptions, the Ravens would have just scored on every single drive. So the Chargers offense, yes, has not exactly put up points, but they have moved the football. I don't even think they punted the ball versus Dallas last week. They consistently kind of shoot themselves in the foot in the red zone, but if they can execute in the red zone versus a team that can't really defend the run in the Chiefs, they've got mismatches everywhere at wide receiver, Eckler out of the backfield, and Herbert is one of the rare quarterbacks who can actually go big throw for big throw with Patrick Mahomes. 7 points just seems like too many. The Chiefs are always overvalued, it feels like, in recent memory, as they are 0-9 in their last 9 regular season games versus the spread. And I believe 1-11-1, including the playoffs. So for me, I still think the Chargers are an underrated team in this league, and 7 points is just too many. So I'll take the Chargers to keep this one close versus the Chiefs. My final best bet for week number 3 of the 2021 NFL season is the Green Bay Packers plus 3.5 over the San Francisco 49ers on Sunday Night Football. Now, I didn't love what I saw from the Packers defense versus the Detroit Lions, and I definitely think there is an argument to be had for the Niners to move the football effectively on the ground. But when you look at this matchup, it's a clear mismatch on the perimeter for the Green Bay Packers on really both sides of the football. If the 49ers are forced to pass the ball, it's going to be tough for them to move the football through the air. Jimmy Garoppolo has not been consistent. He's been anything but that through the first 2 games, especially last week. And Green Bay has a pretty good secondary overall. On top of that, Davante Adams and their passing game will definitely find success with Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball versus these cornerbacks. Josh Norman is the number 1 corner for the Niners. Are you kidding me? Nobody's covering Adams in this game. Rodgers should throw for over 300 yards in this game, and they have an effective, balanced attack with Aaron Jones as well out of the backfield. So I like the Packers to be able to score points in this game, which puts pressure on the 49ers to score points. And if the Packers actually get the lead initially, it's going to be hard for the 49ers to play the role of coming from behind, coming back, because they have a lack of really efficient passing game. So I think the Packers are in a spot to remind you why they were a team that people liked going to the Super Bowl or being in the NFC Championship conversation. They're plus 3.5. You're getting the better quarterback. I like Aaron Rodgers getting these points as the underdog in this spot. Give me Aaron Rodgers. Give me the Packers in a primetime spot to shut up the haters and to win this game outright. I'm taking the Packers over the 49ers. Those are my spread picks, my 5 spread picks for week number 3. Finishing off with the teaser of the week. My teaser of the week is the Arizona Cardinals from -7.5 to -1.5, and the Cleveland Browns doing the very same versus the Chicago Bears from -7.5 or 7, depends on where you get the number, down to -1.5 or -1. So what you're doing with the teaser, the 6-point teaser, which is what I recommend here, is you go through the key numbers of 7, 6, 4, and 3 in this case. I always like taking favorites and betting them down to essentially just the money line. And when I feel very confident about 2 teams to actually outright win a game, that's when I'll tease them down, but I'm not exactly certain they will cover the spread. So I'm kind of covering myself for the Cardinals here, but I also like the Browns, who are very close to being on my best bets sheet here this week, but I like the Browns to at least win the game. There are some questions with some injuries at wide receiver, but I like the Browns. I think they're an elite AFC team, and I'm not really buying into the Justin Fields hype. I'm actually fading it here. So I like the Browns paired with the Cardinals in my teaser of the week. There you go, guys. Those are my best bets for week number 3 of the 2021 NFL season. Make sure you do Gronk spike that like button, and don't forget to subscribe for more BLV on the NFL betting against the spread. Make sure you do check out my bookie. Use the code BLV100 and get double your first deposit. Peace.